Welcome home, neighbors.
Welcome home, neighbors.
Hello, neighbors.
We're listening from
Arizona,
Florida,
Maryland, New York, New Jersey,
Indianapolis,
California,
Utah,
Michigan.
Iowa,
Massachusetts,
Georgia,
Canada.
Our home resort is
Animal Kingdom,
Polynesian,
Bay Lake Town,
Old Key West,
Riviera,
Boardwalk,
Alani Resort,
Hilton Head,
Boulder Ridge, Copper Creek,
Grand Floridian,
Saratoga Springs,
Beach Club.
and Wilderness Lodge.
And you're listening to
and you're listening
You're listening
to
my
my
voice.
Welcome home, neighbors, to Community Hall Live. My name is Chad, and I'm going to be your host tonight. And tonight we're talking about the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser with former Imagineer McNair Wilson and my good buddy Derek Sassman from Rope Drop Radio, who has been multiple times. We'll have to find out what his count is. I know it's been several. At least two. So welcome to the show, McNair Wilson. How you doing today, McNair?
I'm good, Chad. Good to be with you folks.
Oh, good to have you here, and welcome to the show, Derek Sassman from Rope Drop Radio. How you doing tonight, Derek?
I'm doing good. It's been 2 times with a third trip to the Star Cruiser in 2 weeks.
I knew it was something crazy. Like
Yep.
I
That's not
absolutely
even crazy. I met people who've been 7 times, so they're beyond me.
Okay,
Does it
buddy.
get any better, Chad? When you go a third time, does it get better?
Oh, absolutely. It was 10 times better the second time than it was the first. It'll be even better the third. We'll talk more about it, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, let's just jump into our first question here. And, you guys can comment on this if you're watching live, and we'll definitely pull this in. But what went well? Derek, you've been twice. What really, really, really went well about the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience?
I think they did an excellent job at the theming of what it's supposed to be. It is a live action role play, interactive experience, dinner theater, escape room, all set in the Star Wars universe. They did that phenomenally. You're interacting with characters, other guests, you're on missions, you're solving puzzles, and they really did make it addicting that you wanted to come back. And so for what they wanted to do, I think they pulled it off exceptionally well. And that's why you hear and see so many people like me who have gone multiple times and are really sad to see it go.
Oh, I'm sad to go too. I was holding out for like Florida resident discounts. We saw the AP DVC ones, and then it just did not happen for me for whatever reason, right? So because I just didn't make it.
I tried. I had people connected. I tried to get you on board.
Yeah, I know you tried. So McNair, from your perspective here, what do you think really went well with the Star Cruiser?
Caveat, I've not been.
Okay.
And one of the things, when it first was opening, I made the point of watching probably 15 videos of some of the previews, a lot of influencers and podcasters, and I was immediately perturbed by everybody doing this. So all of a sudden, I'm not in an immersive experience. I'm in a theme park experience. And when we opened the Disney MGM studios and I created the Street and Sheer Hollywood Boulevard characters, one of the things I was adamant about was we never said theme park. We never said Disney World. We said Hollywood. You're in a real place. You use the crosswalks. And it worked so well, we trained all of the Hollywood Boulevard retail cast members. We told all the area bands, stand on the curb and the sidewalk, not in the street. This is a real place. And watching the videos of Star Cruiser, I felt like I was at a theme park hotel because there were so many people taking pictures, and it was disturbing. I was angry, and I thought, well, they'll get past that.
Now that's the guest doing that, though, right?
Of course, it doesn't matter.
So Derek, unless I'm vastly misunderstanding things, all of the Star Wars employees, the characters, they were in character. They never left it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They didn't know what Earth was, and they had a backstory and a home planet and everything.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's the case. I'm just saying that with so many people be so obsessed of capturing themselves being there, it really diminished the immersiveness. It's like somebody saying, oh, it's like when you go to a Renaissance festival, and that's my background for 20 years. And the cast members there are completely in character. Renaissance festivals, you don't have as many people taking pictures. But so I held out. I thought, once it opens, it'll be fine. And it opened and the same thing continued. And
McNair, you can't go to a fireworks show without 50 million people holding their camera up, blinding you with their
I have
phone, going.
I have
"Have y'all
totally
not
different
heard of YouTube?"
expectations.
Like
I have
there's
I have different expectations there.
Except I look at it, I went back through my photos because I do a podcast. I needed photos for the podcast. I didn't take many. I was so wrapped up in the immersion, my phone stayed away for most of the time. Yeah, I grabbed some dinner pics, but no, my phone was away. And I feel like, especially on the second cruise versus the first cruise, a lot of people's phones were put away and they're just enjoying the experience, especially knowing that it's going away.
That's encouraging.
Yep.
Because
It was,
because
I think the first few cruises, you get all the vloggers, bloggers, people there. Once they're done, that's when it started to become more immersive.
Well, I've now probably watched 40 different videos of it, and every time I'm distracted by the people who are reminding me I'm at a fake thing. And what I would do if they say they kept it open is I would say in the pre-arrival instruction for the first few hours you're welcome to take all the videos and stuff, but then after that, there'll be a bell or a buzzer or something, and we're going to ask you to put all that away. Photograph your room, photograph so and so. If you want to photograph your food, great. But to be walking around, as a lot of people do, it ruins it. But it changes it. I don't know.
Now, Derek,
go so
is
far
it
as
your
to say
data
ruin.
pad, aka your phone?
Yeah,
an
and that's
integral part
the
of
other thing. Your phone's got to be out because you got the missions on your phone, the data pad. So that is something I know in the first few cruises you got a separate phone data pad, but it's all done on the Play Disney app. So it's not like you can give away your phone. That's such an integral part of the experience.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like that, and I think there would be a way to say to guests to preserve the immersive experience of it, and so it's not that. Here's what we recommend. Here's what we suggest. I mean, you can't make people do that. They've paid, as some people would say, way too much money or they paid quite a bit of money for it. So let's try to respect that and stay in the character. And in the same way that a lot of people, I have some friends who are with an independent design firm in Southern California, a lot of them former Imagineers, and they all went in costume. They looked great. They had a great time. And not everybody does that, and that's fine. You can't require people to do that either. But I just think to the extent that they could have done that or could be doing that would be a beneficial to the overall guest experience.
Yeah, or make the phone more a part of the story. Because, you're doing missions on it, you're checking it. So
and that's great.
It sounds like maybe make the photo taking of it part of the storyline just to accommodate this, I guess, tourism factor, for lack of better words here.
It's like Dapper Dan days at Disneyland. It's a different place because you've got literally thousands of people coming in their 30s, 40s, and 50s garb, and they're taking pictures and stuff. But you look around, and boy, it's a different place. And you can't do immersive experience if the majority of the people are observers.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. So, Derek, it sounds like you were fully on board with the characters, the role play, everything else, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a Star Wars fanatic. I was hooked as soon as we got on board.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging. That's very encouraging because that you liked it, but that you're as you said, a Star Wars fanatic, and you still enjoyed it. And that would be the ultimate guest.
Oh, yeah. I get that I am Disney nerd and Star Wars nerd. I fit the Venn diagram of people who will love the Star Cruiser. Thus why I'm going for a third time in a couple weeks. But I do think a lot of people who just didn't understand what it is and what it was would still enjoy it. People are like, oh, I don't really like Star Wars. It's a really cool experience. You probably would have liked it. We had people that went with our podcast group. We're not really into Star Wars. They're like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever done.
I was going to say, I don't think I've personally known anybody that has went to this experience that didn't come home saying, oh my God, that was incredible. It was worth every penny that I paid. And I kind of want to go back.
Yep. Same here.
Somebody asked Tony Baxter at a D23 panel discussion. A lady said, how is it that when I go on, say, Pirates of the Caribbean, the 19th time I see new things? And Tony said something. This is something I learned from Tony and other first generation Imagineers. We design a space to be fun the 19th time through, not the first time through. First time through, that's Six Flags, and maybe the third and fourth time. It's going to be the same thing. And I'm encouraged that Derek is saying, he's gone 3 times and he gets better and better and better. I love hearing that.
Well, there's different storylines. Like, I'm frustrated that I'm not going to be able to do, like, you have different paths, you have different stories, and I'm not even going to be able to see them all. The people that I know who have gone 5, 6, 7 times, our friends over at Hero of the Halcyon podcast, they've all every time they see a completely different storyline and different story beats. And it's just like, that's the addicting thing that Disney did super well, that they didn't really explain, that there is rewrite ability, and you can take different paths and just have a completely different experience.
That's great. When we opened the Adventures Club at Pleasure Island, initially it was going. Thank you. When it's one of the 2 or 3 favorite things that I worked on, and we didn't think they'd let us do it because it was so unusual and there was nothing like it. I remember when Michael Eisner, when he explained it, he says, "Is there anything like they're out there like this?" And I said, "No, we're going to have to screw this one up on our own, because usually you learn from other people's mistakes." And the thing that was great about Adventures Club is nobody could copy it. A man in New York tried to with the Jekyll and Hyde Club, and even said so. This is based on. And one of the initial decisions that we eventually changed was that each actor would always play the same character. So a friend of mine who was an actor in San Diego, who I knew right away would be perfect for Hathaway Brown, eventually played different characters. And I have some favorite photos that I showed people when I explained it to them of 2 of the best actors at Adventures Club playing opposite characters, doing the exact same bit. Guy falls and he falls, and it still works. And guests liked that. We weren't sure guests would like that, seeing actors in different roles. And it's another version of more than one ending to the murder mystery.
Got it.
Yep. As someone who did the Adventurers Club, I can say that was a prelude to what they were trying to do at the Star Cruiser.
Yeah, I was
about
ready to say here, I think a lot of your original work here, McNair, with Streetmosphere and all the stuff that went on at Epcot and then over at Citizens of Hollywood, I think this is the evolution of that.
Well, yes, and Michael Eisner was a big fan of SAC Theater, which is the parent company that created this street theater at Epcot. We were hired, for 3 months for Italy to do 10 shows a day, and we ended up within a week adding to the United Kingdom, and then 3 other shows in future. We're doing 45 shows a day at one point at Epcot. Stayed almost 7 years and did 41,000 street theater shows. And one of the things that surprised me, and the Streetmosphere idea came when we were designing Hollywood Boulevard, and we all picked our favorite buildings. We spent almost a week in Hollywood taking pictures of all our favorite buildings. So we'll do this one, we'll do this one, we'll do this one. And then somebody said, there's always the last guy in town that won't sell his house. And that became Sid Cahuenga's one-of-a-kind shop, Cahuenga Boulevard being a street. And I said, if there's a place called Sid Cahuenga's, there's got to be a Sid Cahuenga. And I thought of my friend Al Rassam, an actor in Minneapolis that I'd known since I visited his college years ago. Drew a picture of him. And when he came for auditions, I said, "Don't tell anybody that you know me." And Ronnie Rodriguez from the entertainment division said, "Look, that's your guy, that's your guy." And he grabbed my thing. And so as he was leaving, Al turned and said, "Nice to see you, McNair." Well, he was a natural for it. But he was the only one. That's what we did with Streetmosphere. He was the only one who played Sid Cahuenga. Our 2 gossip columnists had different personalities, because I saw that at Epcot, we had 3 different guys doing Dreamfinder, and the kid would come up to Dreamfinder and said, "Remember me from Tuesday?" Well, he wouldn't, because it was a different actor. Dreamfinder was Dreamfinder. And what you've got to do with those situations is you have to give each actor their own personality, or make a part of the show what you were talking about, Eric, that's seeing the same actors in different roles and so on. The problem was, and I asked around, who's working on Galaxy's Edge, because they said it's going to be immersive. And I said, "Yeah, right. It's a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of actors to do that right."
Well, let's just stop there. Like, Derek, did they have like one person, one role? How did that work in Star Cruiser?
No, you had different people in different roles. And I think with that many actors, you have to have subs. I mean, we're just in case someone gets sick or can't be it. So I would love to know how many overall actors there were. I know I've seen different ones on different voyages for all the main roles, except for the captain. We had the same one. And I know there's multiple Wraiths. I know there's multiple Gaias. And so they have to have a plethora of actors. But then
Sure.
we've seen
But did
some
they keep
switch
the same
roles.
one throughout the same voyage?
Same one through the same voyage. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's only a 48-hour experience. So yeah, your captain's going to be the same one, of course. But I do know a few of them have switch roles. Like I know one of the Sammys became Lieutenant Croy. And so they've done that.
One of the
Okay.
things that you
Well,
said
that makes sense to me. That they could be trained to fill in multiples as long as they're not switching mid-cruise. That would be
Yeah,
confusing.
you talked
That would
about
be
the
weird.
evolution from Epcot Street Theater to Citizens Hollywood and so on. No one who was involved in Adventurers Club had anything to do with any of the Star Wars stuff. And there are people around. Some of the main actors from Adventurers Club are in Orlando. They're available. They're now directing and leading some of the other dinner theater and immersive experiences off property. And it's I'll just say it, it's too bad they don't leverage their talents and their experience to plus the Star Wars thing. Not to take away from it, because I say I've not seen it, and I've heard great things like what Derek is saying. I've heard other friends say that they enjoyed it and had a good experience. But I knew it was going to be difficult because that kind of show is very intensive in scheduling and training and in ongoing. I'm not sure that's what went wrong, why they're canceling it. I don't think the entertainment was the problem.
No, those cast members are by far and away the best cast members Disney property has. And everyone from the lowest level, I know people that work in security at the Halcyon, all the way up to the main people who are basically on stage the whole time. Like those, each one of them went above and beyond. And I've been going to Disney my whole life. And so I can honestly say that everyone just completely went above and beyond to make sure your voyage was incredible and made you want to rebook.
So
And
it
isn't
sounds
it
to
interesting?
me, cast members were on point, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The experience was on point. If
Absolutely.
you've got that many people, the only thing that's out there that could be wrong is like price.
Price and marketing. I think the marketing was beyond horrendous. I think that's really what killed it, because price shouldn't be a problem, because if price was the issue, you would have no Disney Cruise Line. There would be nothing expensive. Things can be expensive, but you have to share the value of why those things are expensive. And that's what the Star Cruiser completely failed to do. In fact, I had someone reach out to me and was like, well, I would never do the Star Cruiser because it's so expensive. Like, you better get the best bus services to Animal Kingdom. And I go, there's no bus to Animal Kingdom. They're like, well, that's why it failed. And I go, no, it's an experience. And I do explain the whole thing. And once I finally did, they're like, oh, I really want to do that. And I go, that is where the marketing completely failed. Things can be expensive, but you got to know why it's expensive. And it's something that, just like the Adventurers Club, you will never get anywhere
I'll be
else.
honest, Derek. I knew it was an immersive experience.
Yeah.
I didn't have like $5,000 to pop down for 48 hours for my kid and I. Okay. Like I just didn't do it. Like it's
Eric, I think you're right about marketing. The thing I kept waiting for that I never saw if it existed was, I think they should have blitzed TV with commercials for that hotel, but it should have been created like a movie preview. And you're there. In fact, so much so that for the first 30 seconds, you think you're watching a movie preview. And then at some point, you realize, oh, this is a hotel at Disney World? Wow. And then just the last few seconds, a couple of guests like yourself saying, best experience at Disney was our 2 days at, and guests saying, wow, you can go do that? If they did that, I never saw it.
Yeah, I never saw it either.
The commercials are really bad. As someone who makes TV commercials for a living, I can say those commercials were really, really bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
too bad.
Yeah, I almost want to come back in and issue the Pepsi challenge here and just say, what would you do for a commercial? We kind of heard McNair's take on this. I think it's that would be a fun commercial, and I bet you'd get a ton of YouTube views if you were to put out a full-blown edited commercial. This is what Disney should have done. Right?
My favorite movie trailers are ones where you don't realize what it is you're watching right away. They've drawn you into the experience, and you're going, what is, even if it's a genre you're not particularly interested in, a rom-com or something, they're drawing you in. when we were designing Animal Kingdom, and I was just kind of on the edge of Animal Kingdom, I got a beat from my buddy Joe Rody one day and brought me down to the. And okay, he says, "How big is how big is Noah's Ark?" And I said, "Big." And I pulled out of my back pocket, which is why my little pocket complete Bible that I always carry. And we looked it up and we figured it out. And we said, well, it's 10 stories high and 2.5, 3 football fields long. And they go, "Ooh." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, we're thinking about making that the weenie, the castle, the icon." And I said, "Well, you could downsize it and it'd still be big." So they built it and they put it in the middle of the model. And at one of the updates, Michael Eisner came over to me and says, "Are we going to," he knew I was a church goer. He said, are we going to get in trouble from church folks for doing Noah's Ark?" I said, no, not for doing Noah's Ark, because we'll do it well. It'll be an experience and people will be going lines around the jungle to get in. What'll be the problem is everybody's going to get a plastic bag that's this big or this big that's got the castle, spaceship Earth, Chinese theater, and Noah's Ark. Now it's Disney's Ark. And some people will be offended by that. We won't want to have it be that. It'll just become that. So he said, "Well, if we didn't do it, what would we do?" And I said, "Well, when you ask that question, make sure you let them know you like the idea of the Noah's Ark experience." He says, "Is it nailed down?" I said, "No." So we did the whole update. Then he reached over and picked up the Ark. It was pretty good size, and said, "I love this. I really want us to do this." And then he set it down on the side of the table. He said, "What if we didn't do that and saved it?" And they said, "What do you mean saved it?" And he said, "McNair, you're on." And I said, "You know how 3 or 4 years into any new theme park, we need some big new thing, Everest, to re-energize."
Yeah.
I said, "So you're watching TV, whatever, and you see people tossing back and forth, and you hear animals screaming." And he said, "Now landing at Disney's Animal Kingdom." And the sky parts, and this dove comes down and lands on this man's finger, and he takes the olive branch, zoom back, it's Noah, zoom back, and there's Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark. Boom. And that's how you would sell this new thing. I didn't see that kind of energy or creativity or storytelling put into the marketing of the Starship.
I think that's a fair critique. It took us a little bit to get there, but that is a really, really, really fair critique of what went wrong, to back up Derek's point that it was marketing.
And it's not the only thing at all. I mean, it's a thing, but given how much people who went enjoyed it, those that loved it, where was that energy? Where was that enthusiasm? Where was that passion in the marketing? And I think too often marketing is created from the inside looking out rather than from the outside looking in.
I agree. I mean, why not after every episode of The Mandalorian, #1 show on Disney Plus, they say, "Want to live your Star Wars experience? Galactic Star Cruiser 2-day experience." Could have been 7-second tag during the credits. You're getting a lot of eyeballs to that brand to go at least Google and search it and understand what it is.
And why not? You mentioned the captain. Somebody comes up to the captain and says, "Sir, he's here. He's here? He's really here?" "Yes." And all of a sudden, the Mandalorian himself walks into the main room of the Star Cruiser.
Yep.
Tie-in. All kinds of possibilities that
Why haven't we had anything with Galaxy's Edge and Batuu worked into any of the TV shows, any of the everything?
Oh, they're in every book. So I just finished another High Republic book, and I have a joke because I love Star Wars books. They have to have a one random sentence, whether it be Batuu or the Halcyon or something like. It just cracks me up every time. So latest High Republic book, yep, had the Batuu sentence in there. Take a shot if that's a drinking game.
I don't know if you ever saw it, but when we went to the opening of Galaxy's Left Edge in California, I had a red baseball cap made that looked like a famous red baseball cap that's going around. It said, "Make Batuu great again." And people had to do a double take to look at it. But I think there wasn't enough crossover within Galaxy's Edge and the hotel. And then, I mean, look at the Star Wars universe on Disney Plus. You mentioned it. It's just remarkable sometimes how much they miss the opportunity for tie-ins and crossovers. I mean, just a simple look at all the crossovers that NBC did with all their different Law and Order franchises, where cast from one show in another show.
Let's look back at classic 90s TV and crossovers. How many of those sitcom families came to Walt Disney World?
Oh, man. Yeah. Eisner loved those crossovers.
Okay.
Full House, Step by Step, they all went to Disney World.
Do you know the story about Golden Girls? I can think of all their names. The actress who played the oldest, the mom, who was actually the youngest one in the cast in real life. She was saying to her producer one day, she and her husband wanted to go to Disney World. They'd always been to Disneyland. And they said, well, we'll get you in. They said, she had no idea that there was a tie-in. She knew they filmed it, and so she went and had a great time. And they wanted to do, and I think a lot of media misses those opportunities.
Yeah,
but Disney especially.
The only tie-in we got was the Lego Vacation, Star Wars Vacation, where they went on the Halcyon. So that made me laugh that was the only tie-in that we got from a Lego thing that very few only kids watch. So you're targeting the kids, but yeah, they needed something more within that realm to be able to drive. Why not have a making of Disney Plus 20-minute show, making of the Halcyon, and they show some behind the scenes. Nowhere else in the world can you do a lightsaber experience like this. You know how much money? I guarantee they have the footage somewhere. They shoot everything. Just put that on Disney Plus day one. We don't want to give away the secrets. It doesn't matter. Give away some things so people book.
The footage is there. When they did the Pixar story, the documentary on Pixar, half of that movie is home movies that Pixar employees have been shooting over the years. Yeah. Having no idea that was ever going to be a documentary. And then because of that, when they showed the Pixar story at Imagineering, Marty Sklar said, when are you going to do the Imagineering story? And she said, when you let me do it. And fortunately for Imagineering, the opportunity to do that came at the same time that Disney Plus was launching, so they could do, rather than a movie, do a series, which I thought was 3 on a scale of 1 to 5, but that's another story. But
that's a different podcast right there.
Well, I'll just tell you a little secret. I don't know if you've seen the big coffee table book on Imagineering. For some reason, Disney, when they do something like that, the only people that are in it are the people who were there at the time. So there's people, my friends are always saying, why didn't they use you in the Disney story about Tower of Terror? I mean, you created the idea. And I said, well, because I wasn't there. Disney doesn't do that. Bob Weiss, who was the design head for Disney MGM Studio, and later came back to Disney to fix California Adventure and become president of Imagineering, is not mentioned in that book because he wasn't on staff when they made the book. And it's sad. Same thing with the Imagineering story series documentary. They only used people, and a lot of the people that talk about, like when I listen to them talk about, the story behind the ride, I don't know where they got their information, but a lot of it ain't true because they didn't work on it. Too bad.
Oh, yeah, on that. Now, McNair, I will say this. You did get a cameo in Imagineering story. We did see a young Craig McNair in there pop up a couple times.
That's still, it's not me doing anything.
Yeah,
it's okay. You know what? It's not why you do it. I did an interstitial for the Disney Channel years ago that was about 7 minutes long with me and Marty McPhail called Lost in Imagineering. It's on YouTube with me taking her around Imagineering and showing her. It was going to be a series, and I don't know why we never did any more of them, but it's okay.
Got it. Well, back over to our Star Cruiser here.
Yes.
Let's come back in and hit our third question. So Derek, fan favorite for what went right. Okay. We thought the marketing was bad. And then I heard hashtag not my Star Wars, like that theme throughout all of the tie-ins. They didn't bridge it over from all of the old Star Wars to the new and all the new fans. But now, what would you guys change going forward? If they were to reopen this or redo this or re-leverage this multi-million-dollar building after it gets completely written off, what would you guys do differently? How would you change this forward?
For me, what I wanted to see is them doing almost seasons. So like, yeah, we got the episode 7, 8, 9 season. All right, now, and this is where you start tying in things. You take a few months off. It has another season, season 2. We're doing the Mandalorian version of the Star Cruiser. That runs its course. Oh, now we have the Ahsoka version of the Mandalorian. Oh, we have no new Star Wars content coming out. Boom, we go back to episodes 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6, and do that. And I think if you would have continued to adapt and change the storyline, that thing would have been stayed sold out forever. So what I really do want to see them,
And then blend it into all the Disney Plus stuff.
I think they could. I think it would have been really easy to do. In fact, from what I hear, that was one of the ideas going along. They just didn't want to spend the time or money. I mean, the hardest thing with the Star Cruiser is that it was sold out for 6 months straight. Like, this was a huge hit, and it just dropped like a rock when it started to slow down. And now it's sold out for 4 more months at the end. So obviously,
all of the people dragging their feet like me should have been,
yeah,
right, have now went, okay, it's now or never.
now or never. So what I want
But
to do
to your
is,
point, if
Yep.
we had seasons and we had the Mandalorian season and it was booking from these dates to these dates,
and you wait to say anything. Like, you don't know, the season could be a year, could be 18 months. It depends what the other property's doing. So you're okay, maybe I will go. I don't know when the next season's going to come out, because some people would like to wait to see what it is. You gotta, that's kept completely secret, and then boom, you launch the new season.
I think you're right on. I mean, look at the popularity of the Halloween overlay for Haunted Mansion.
Yep.
Look at the popularity of the different seasonal things that they do in the Magic Kingdoms. One of the ideas I had, and again, just my background in theater, is keep the current form, the 2-day form, but add, whether it's once a month or twice a month, a 1-day experience where you check in at noon, and it's an all-day, like a murder mystery, but maybe not a murder mystery, that you're involved in solving and figuring out the story and so on. The key to those kind of experiences, you've got to have 3 or 4 endings. So you could go 3 or 4 times and never see quite the same ending. There was a playwright in Boston who had a friend who had this little mini theater, and a friend called him and said, "Hey, I've got a 6-week opening coming up. Have you got a script?" He says, "Yeah, I've got a murder mystery. One set takes place in a beauty parlor called Sheer Madness." They were going to run it 6 weeks. It ran 12 years. It ran 8 years in Washington, D.C. It had 4 endings. People would go see it. Then their friends would go see it, and they'd argue about the ending because the ending wasn't the same. It was hilarious. And the audience voted on the ending, who done it. And I think if you change it up so you had an alternate experience, the regular 2-day thing as they have now, but then once a month or whatever, at whatever frequency they decide, you have this experience where you check in at noon and you're there for 24 hours and you go through this almost an all-night mystery experience where you're involved in telling the story, you're involved in deciding the story. So it's not always the same. That in itself is not always the same, but then it's different from the other 2-day experience. And that mystery thing may appeal more to say something. Are you married, Derek?
Yep.
So it may appeal more to like you and your wife just to go do that. Maybe it's something that
Derek,
doesn't
didn't they
expect.
build a lot of this in here with the various different paths you could take?
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Dark side, light side,
it
scoundrel.
really is. I mean,
right?
what you're saying, they're already doing, except for the very end. The very end is so climactic and so immersive, you don't know which way to look. So, but all the paths are completely different, and you are kind of choosing your own based on choices you make and characters you talk to and interactions. You're going down, like, there's things I haven't seen, things I haven't done that I hope to do. At the dark side, I've not done any of that stuff, and so they have done that, and that's why there is that rewritability. So that's why it's really fun. You're talking about coming together. Like, we come together for drinks at the end of the night, and everyone's talking about what they did that day. We all have different stories. We were on different missions. And it's like, oh, I wish I could have done that or seen that. I got to go again.
See, I'm looking for something where, because guests, they come to Disney World, families, once a year or every day. So I'm looking for something saying, we were here 3 months ago for the 2-day thing. Now we're doing the 1-day thing. And it's a very specific, different kind of thing. And we would do things like costumes are either provided or required. If you don't have one, we've got a costume shop that comes with your thing. So a completely different experience
No,
for
I think
guests,
that's
as
a
well
fair
as
idea there. Should
as
there be a 3-day cruise? Should there be a
well.
2-day cruise? A 1-day cruise?
The
Should
other
Should
the other the other
exhausted
thing
by the
about
end
it
of the
was that I was
second
trying
day.
to the other problem I was trying to solve is the number of people who say, the 5, 6, whatever $1,000 for X amount of people. Is there a way to do the same level of experience in that wonderful facility, and drop it down just enough to take what's that next level of guest that hasn't gone because of the price point? Well, if it was a 1-day experience, you would do that, and it would be available it'd be scheduled certain
like a
times.
day only, like a
Oh,
day
that's what I'm
only,
saying.
right?
It'd be from you check in at noon and you check out the next day at 10 a.m. And
I mean, I could see them doing something day only dinner theater, day only sublight lounge. In fact, that's what I assume they're going to do is they can shuttle people to and from, and you're basically just able to go to the bar, the gift shop, which I would pay money just to go back to that bar for sure.
Yeah,
That sublight lounge, the amount of money that bar has made for me alone, let alone everyone else, and in fact should have made the thing make money in the first place. So, but I do like the idea. I always wanted an experience where 100% of the people had to be in costume and no kids. Because on our first voyage, there's way too many kids. And if they said, hey, these are the dates that you have to be 18 plus, it's going to be a little bit more PG-13, I think you'd sell that one out really quickly.
probably.
Adventures Club had an age limit, 18
Yep.
years old. A lot of cruise lines do cruises that are adults only. Now, they're not people walking around naked. They're just geared. The main thing about adults only is it's a no kids cruise, and people like that. And so I think
Some variety in the voyages is what I've heard here.
absolutely.
Right? Which we got back into maybe my 2-day, 3-day, 1-day, whatever. But this is an 18 only. This is a LARPers. This is a high role play one. And another comment from somebody on Facebook is it needs a pool area for non-fans to chill while Star Wars friends, family inside, and unlimited going to the parks. I think that's called Beach Club Boardwalk. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we've got
what
that.
if-
Just you don't have to
You don't
be with
need
them for 2 days.
with all the technology and the characters, you don't want a pool and water around that building at all. That's the one complaint I kept hearing. And if they were to turn it into a regular resort or a DVC resort and add a pool, you got to change some of the electronics around there because you don't want to break some things.
Yeah. I'm fine with no pool.
I also
really
think there
am.
might be, and maybe they already have this, Derek. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I was wrong back in '67 for about 5 minutes, so it's possible. But to get to ahead of time, to get a manual that says, "Here's your character, here's who you are, here's your role," and so on, and here's some suggestions you can follow to prepare to be even more immersed in what's going on ahead of time.
Yeah, they could definitely help a little bit more. I know we went into our first cruise completely blind and
Yeah.
without watching any of the videos. And so we didn't know how to play the game. And so it is nice, I think, now since so many podcasts and things people have gone, you do kind of understand, okay, I want to be a Jedi. How do I do that side? I want to be a smuggler and interact. Oh, okay, now you have a little bit better option. But I do agree. The first time you go, it's very overwhelming. You don't get, I answer this question the wrong way, and it's putting me down a path I can't get back on maybe from.
Yeah, I think that's where there needs to be an open house orientation.
They do a good job when you get on board. The first few hours is basically exploring and showing your room and stuff like that. But that was some of the bad marketing and press behind it. It is an experience. Once 4 o'clock hits, characters are out. You're on missions. It's go time.
Yeah, but I think if they had like an open house day, the way we do tours of a DVC villa here, and you could come back in and start to see what it is and really understand it, and some better marketing and the movie videos.
Yeah.
This has to be a viable product because there is repeatability, and there are people that do have the money to do this. Hence, look at all the people popping down 18 grand for a concierge level cruise on a Disney cruise ship. Like, the money's there. It's for a lot of people. For me, that's not there, right? I mean, I gotta save up, pinch pennies, do what I got
We
to
split
do,
rooms
right?
every time. Like I'm going with 2 other guys this next trip. I went with multiple other guys the last couple trips. It's, that's how we always save money is we're not, my wife will have never gotten to do it. My daughter, one of my sons is going to go this next time, but we never spent the money as a family. We always split it with other people.
I used to get every other week a compendium of the greatest hits of guest comments from Disney World, Disneyland, positive and negative. And that's why I tell friends, I say this in my keynote addresses at corporate conventions. Anytime you go anywhere, a restaurant, a coffee shop, a theme park, take the time to go to guest relations and give them a positive and a negative comment about your experience, the negative being constructive. And in all senses, be specific. Why was this great? Or why was this sub expectations? There's a term of art in the Renaissance Festival world called throwing an assumption. When you come through the gate, we assume you're a part of this Renaissance world. We don't assume you're, and we did the same thing with the Streetmosphere characters, with Hollywood Boulevard characters. We never talked to them about being guests at a theme park. Never, ever, ever. The vice president of all of Disney creative entertainment, and my boss, Marty Scarl, used to say, problem with creative entertainment is they're neither creative or entertaining. So, well, they do nice bands and they do lip-syncing gay Mormons, tap dancing in front of castles. But other than that, and so as guests came in, we just treated you like you were somebody from LA, or maybe you're from Nebraska visiting LA. Guests loved that. And part of the preparation was each member of the 33 Hollywood Boulevard characters had an assignment to do a report on what was the hit music, what were the hit movies, who were the big stars. And we picked 1947. So you could talk to those actors. You couldn't talk to them about Harrison Ford. He wasn't there. He was a kid, but you could talk to them about whoever the big thing. And the older guests, Disney guests, like that. Now, one of the things in those guests' compendiums of comments that you'd hear, Marty Scholar asked me, he said, do people complain about our prices? I said, it's not the price itself. It's what you get for the money. If you go on a very busy day at Disneyland and there's 80,000 people in the park, and you're going to maybe hit 5 or 6 of your 8 or 10 favorite attractions, you think you didn't get your money's worth. You got to the things you like, but you didn't get to everything you like. So how do we do that? And yes, you're right, Chad. There are those people who can do the $18,000 concierge cruise. But as soon as people who can't afford that, can't even get close to that, would love to go on one Disney cruise in their life, they're saying Disney is about rich people. And what I would love us to do, that's why I'm proposing the one-day thing, is how can we provide that same amazing experience for people who can't, like Derek says, can't take his whole family. And that's unfortunate. Now, people would complain to me, Disneyland is too much. I said, how much should a ticket to Disneyland cost? Whatever it costs, there are people who couldn't afford to drive there from East LA. And when they got there, couldn't afford to eat there. That's why Walt always said, and people don't realize this is true, you can take your own food into the parks. People don't realize. I said, you can. Just don't take glass bottles and alcohol. Other than that, take sandwiches, snacks, and do it for money saving. Do it for a mom with kids can keep, feeding the kids throughout the day. Go back to the hotel and have dinner where it's going to be cheaper and easier and so on and so on and so on. But what can we do? It's never going to be free. It's never going to be, the price of a movie. And I just went to the new Indiana Jones movie. It's not cheap. But,
yeah.
I don't go to a movie every week. I don't go to a movie every month anymore. But what can we do to help people do that? And to take off that veneer of,
well, it
Disney
comes back
is a
into
wealthy people's experience.
Ron comes back in. Cost is only a problem in the absence of value.
I said that earlier, word for word almost.
And it's coming back into, we needed some smaller, more affordable bite-sized chunks. Okay, you could come in for a dinner theater one night on an off night, right? Get a completely different cast, completely different show, something along those lines. That would be a great way to make this more obtainable to more people.
I can see that happening going forward too. A dinner, because here's the thing about Galaxy's Edge: there is no stage show. There is no character. The fact that Batuu did not open with Star Wars character meet and greet dinner food thing like every other parks got with all the Fab Five blows my mind, because people would wait in line and that thing would sell out constantly. If it was Grogu, Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Chewbacca, they come to your table, eat cheese. Oh my gosh, how they didn't do that starting off day one just blows my mind. And because they wanted to do it for the Star Cruiser, and I still think that can be incorporated somehow.
From the moment they announced Galaxy's Edge, they talked about immersive and characters and so on. So I went that first week and I looked for it, and I saw some Stormtroopers and I saw Rey. The girl that was doing Rey was fantastic, and she was working only with kids, skulking around. But that was it.
Well, you have V. Murata walking around. How many people have read the book that V. Murata is? Me and maybe like 5 other people at Galaxy's Edge on any given day. It just, they have done such a bad, they picked a timeline, they stuck with it, like, we're going to be in this timeline, and it failed them miserably. And that's, I mean, the fact that Kathleen Kennedy still has a job blows my mind, because just like you can't, you pigeonholed yourself so much that now you can't do anything with it. And they've used the Star Cruiser as a crutch. Like, we can't change Batuu because of the Star Cruiser. And now it's gone the opposite way.
Yeah,
the Star Cruiser travels, right? I mean, it's a flexible vessel.
It's in the High Republic series. They talked about it. I know why some of the things are there now.
Yeah.
There are missed opportunities, all of which are addable at this point.
Well, my take is I shouldn't have to go read every Star Wars book that's out for the handful of references to this thing. I've watched every Disney Plus series that's out there that's come out since then. I haven't went back and watched all of the old cartoons, but every new Disney Plus series I've watched. Why wasn't this pitched on Mando? Why wasn't this pitched on any of the other stuff and at least referenced and worked into those storylines somehow?
Yep.
Spielberg talked about, because he directed the first 4 indie films and not the new one, and he said he liked the new one, and I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. But any movie that's got 6 writers before the movie starts, there's going to be problems. But he said one of his goals with that, as with Star Wars, you shouldn't have to have seen the other 3 to enjoy The Last Crusade. And you don't. I, just before seeing the new movie, went back and watched over a course of a month the 4 indie movies, and I watched them chronologically. So you watch the second one first, so on.
Well, but I think there's a little bit of a difference here between a $16.99 investment in a movie ticket that's right down the street from me and a $6,000 2-day travel to Walt Disney World.
Well, that's why I think,
right?
That's why I think, an owner's manual, a briefing kit, also to get you excited about going. I mean, you're spending several $1,000s. Why wouldn't you get something fun in the mail, as well as a thing that shows you how you're going to be able to, download the app and use that and start using that before you get there, so the experience begins before you
why
get
isn't there
there.
some drip marketing going on that's kind of teasing
you? They
you?
Call you and tell you, hey, you're going to be there, and they do get you hyped up and make sure you have the Disney app ready to go. So they do a little bit.
And since you've got all these actors, I mean, why couldn't young Obi-Wan, Jude Law, come in and say, I understand you're going to be visiting so-and-so. I was there years ago when it was just a little roadside motel, so on and so on, or The Mandalorian, or some of those characters that are familiar on some of those spin-off shows. I think there's some opportunities there. And I'm not saying that they were wrong not doing that. I'm just saying there's a big right that they've missed.
Comes down to leadership. Who's at top of the Star Wars franchise? May not be the right one.
Well, that's been the problem of Disney for the last several years. I mean, they've got some leadership with political agendas. They're not talking to each other. I saw that when I was at Disney, Disney Channel wanted to do these take contemporary rock songs, put them to old Disney cartoons, and they did. But the people who owned the vault, it was Walt Disney, who owned the vault, was charging the Disney Channel the same price as if anybody else in town wanted to use Disney and in-house. We got a new head of all of our resort properties from Marriott, and he said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Oh, I'm staying at the Grand Marriott." He said, "You're not staying at Disney property?" I said, "No." I said, "I got a good deal at the Marriott, and they give me an upgraded room." So why are you staying there? I said, because it's cheaper. And Michael Eisner found out about that it was cheaper for us to stay off property. They're not 23 divisions, and they act like warring companies.
Yep.
That's a fundamental problem of Disney is the right hand doesn't talk to the left as well.
We always said,
they talk to them, but they talk to them in loud, argumentative voices.
Yeah.
Why are VIP tour guides, like if there's ever an empty room, there should always be one room on the Halcyon, on the Star Cruiser for VIP, like have a VIP tour guide go in, do the experience, like have your staff, have other cast members at Batu do it, like give it to them for free. So then they can tell people about it. Especially on the VIP tours, you're having the people who have the money. Hey, I just did this thing. You should do it. Oh, okay. Maybe we'll look into booking this.
This is true.
So the fact that they didn't have, like, I have friends who work on the Star Cruiser who would love to do the Star Cruiser and never got to do the Star Cruiser, and that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's true. And
let me say to Dan Austin, you're welcome. Keep listening. Tell your friends.
Well, actually, I threw that comment up there because we're kind of near the end of our show. So I kind of need to wrap this one up and go over on to how we can do this. But before I do that, let me come back in and do a quick shout out of thanks. So DVC Resale Market, DVC Rental Store, and Monera Financial. Want to do a huge little plug here for DVC Resale Market. They are the world's leader in DVC resales. If you are looking to do any kind of buying or selling, or if you're just researching DVC and you want to talk to somebody who used to be a former guide, 100% of their sales team is former Disney direct guides. And so you can get that Disney level of experience without having to pay the Disney price tag. DVCResaleMarket.com. Let them know you heard about them here on the My DVC Points podcast and the Community Hall Live. And anytime you do business with them, be sure to select our name from the drop down as to how did you hear about us. Just select My DVC Points. Now, let me bring the guys back on and we'll wrap this show up. So, McNair, we've got an event coming up, and I'm going to let Gina throw some banners up here, but that question of how we can do more, we've got some Patreon exclusive events coming up. So if you guys would like to plan a trip to Walt Disney World from the 11th, November is the 11th month. So 11, 10, I believe 12 and 13, is it, Gina? We've got 3 events coming up. One of them is after you left Disney Imagineering, you went over to Universal Creative and worked on a little project that ended up becoming Seuss Landing.
They gave me a box of children's books one day, and this was after having done 2 or 3 other projects for them. Designed a big Beetlejuice ride that they didn't want to do. It was a truck and a sofa and so on. And they gave me all these children's books. I said, what do I do with these? They said, we don't know. We've got permission to explore. I said, is it a land? Is it a park? We said, no, no. So I treated it like a land. And for the next 6 years, friends would say at parties, how come nobody's done Dr. Seuss in a theme park? I said, well, it's an intellectual property that's not owned by any of the theme park folks. Couldn't say anything until 6 years later, Universal announced Islands of Adventure. Island, of course, being their metaphor for lands. And what was delightful to me about Seuss Landing was they followed a lot of my very picky guidelines. Like Seuss doesn't use purple, he uses periwinkle. He doesn't use red, he uses raspberry. So they use those. He has a very particular yellow. He has no right angles, so everything was crooked. We were going to do an elevated train, but I said, if you do that, the uprights have to be crooked. Well, there wasn't a way, technology at the time I designed it, to do I-beams that weren't straight. Now there were. And I said, the first thing you see must be a little hut that's green eggs and ham. It was very popular, so they tore it down and built a bigger little hut. So that was very rewarding.
So, but since I've known you since 2017, McNair, I have always wanted to go to Islands of Adventure, Seuss Landing, and tour with you. So we set up this event, and you can go over to mydvcpoints.com/events. And there'll be some more information there. You can come back in, and if you just fill out the form there or send me a note, mydvcpoints@gmail.com. In case we don't have all of that technology, I will get back with you, let you know how you can come back in and do this. I think we're going to be pricing these at $100 an event to come back in and hang out with a former Disney Imagineer. And then the next day, we're going to be an on-stage tour, not backstage. You'll need to provide your own theme park tickets and access for this one. and we'll be meeting at Hollywood Studios. You'll get to ride Tower of Terror with the guy who essentially came up with the whole idea for it. Right, McNair?
Yeah. Why is it a hotel? We started with Mel Brooks, and Michael says, I'm bringing a friend over to work with you. And we thought it'd be some young up and coming director. And he walks in with Mel Brooks, and the team all admitted to each other later that every day after that would be the second best day of our life because we spent that day with Mel. But yeah, it was interesting how that evolved. And it had to do with building a high-end hotel at Disney World. There was going to be the most expensive hotel in the history of Disney World. It was going to be built at the front entrance to the Disney MGM Studios, which we never built. But I said one day, what if one end of that hotel was the original old Hollywood Tower Hotel? What would that be? And we brainstormed, and it evolved into the place.
And if you guys would like to walk through that land in the hotel and ride the ride and with McNair, we've got an event that you guys can come back in and do that as well. And then the final event the next day will be an Ohana style brunch. Chef Callie got lined up, and we've had Chef Callie's cooking before, McNair. Very, very, very good. I think it's better than the authentic Ohana, to be honest with you, because he kicks it up a notch in his own catering there.
He's terrific.
Yeah, and we've got an event to just hang out there. You'll get to ask all the questions, hear all the stories, all the backstage stuff that you ever possibly wanted to do with. And that will be Veterans Day weekend coming up. And again, mydvcpoints.com/events for more information.
Can I say real quickly, if you want a copy of my book on brainstorming, it's on Amazon, or if you go to Facebook, any of my Facebook sites, you'll find it. And there's a way you can message me and get an autographed copy. The new book will be out by the end of the summer, the sequel.
Ooh, so you're promising we'll have the new book by this event, McNair. Did I hear that? Okay.
It is.
Well, we got a thumbs up there, Derek.
It is done. We're just massaging it.
There you go.
There we go.
It'll be a little smaller than this.
That's a big
That
book.
is awesome. That is awesome as well.
Derek, will you be there in November?
I will not. Too many fall events with sports and activities.
Well, I'll look forward to bumping into you somewhere sometime.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have to do that.
Get my cell number from Mr. Pennycoff, and so the next time you're headed to any Disney park, just text me. You never know when I might be able to bump into you there.
Sounds good to me. We'll have some fun chatting.
Sounds
awesome.
awesome.
I was in line for the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and got a text for some friends and said, "We're at Disney World. Wish you were here." And I said, "Where are you?" I said, "Seven Dwarfs." We were both in line for the same ride. Some
That's funny.
old friends. So we ended up spending the day. So it never hurts to try and find me.
Sounds good.
There you go. Now, Derek, speaking of finding you, where can we find Rope Drop Radio and more great content from you and Doug?
Yeah, Rope Drop Radio. Wherever you can find a podcast, whatever podcast site you have, that is where you can find Rope Drop Radio, where we talk all things Disney, not just the Star Cruiser, but literally everything Disney.
It really, truly is. It's pretty theme park heavy for the most part, but it's a phenomenal show. These guys have become really great friends. The banter cannot be beat between them back and forth. And I'm a huge super fan of your guys' show as well.
As I am for your show.
I know it took forever for me to get you on here, but glad we finally made that happen. So anyways, guys, a huge shout out and thanks to our sponsors, DVC Resale Market, DVC Rental Store, Monera Financial, and is it McNairWilson.com now? Did we get that up? Or is it still T with McNair?
It's not up yet. Just go to see McNair Wilson Facebook or Hatch by McNair Wilson Facebook. And the best thing is to go on either one of those and look for my new email list so you can be notified of when the new book is available.
Perfect. And then any place podcasts are played, Rope Drop Radio, but not ropedropradio.com because that's a bad story. We won't go there.
Nope. No. Still don't own that site.
Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we will be back next week with another live show. And we'll see you real soon.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, please watch your head and step as you exit, and take small children by the hand.
Aw, chill up, Dad. You know I'll come back. What DVC?
My DVC Points is an unofficial Disney-inspired podcast created by fans of Disney Vacation Club. The thoughts expressed in this podcast are personal opinions and personal experiences. My DVC Points is not affiliated with Disney Vacation Club, the Walt Disney Companies, or any subsidiaries. We encourage listeners to contact their DVC guide or member services for official DVC policies.